member of the subcommittee wishes to speak, could I ask them to indicate this via the raise hand symbol or on the message board? Members of the public are reminded that the message board is not for public use. Any messages left on the message board by members of the public will be disregarded by committee members. Bearing in mind that this meeting is live streamed and that a recording will be available on the Council's YouTube channel, if you're planning to speak, you may choose to switch off your camera so that only your voice will be heard. Members of the public who are disconnected from the meeting due to technical difficulties should use the link or dial-in instructions they were sent initially to return to the meeting. Members of the public are welcome to record, screenshot or tweet the public proceedings of the meeting. A copy of the Council's protocol for reporting and filming is available on the Southwark website. During the meeting, members of this planning subcommittee will not access the internet except as it relates to the official business of the meeting. Send or receive emails, texts, messages or tweets concerning the business of the committee to anyone outside the meeting. Please note that members may be accessing the agenda papers via the internet. We will be taking a 5-minute screen break every hour and reconvening afterwards. I would like to ask officers to introduce themselves and explain their roles at this meeting. So in no particular order, well, actually, I do have an order, so I'll go. May I introduce Dipesh Patel? Dipesh?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. My name is Dipesh Patel. I'm the Senior Planning Officer at the meeting this evening. I'm here to advise on planning matters for all of the applications tonight.
Thank you. Vicky, you've got your hand up.
I understand Councillor Eastham can't get into the meeting.
Oh, righto.
I don't know if we can get him in before we take the item.
Oh, yes, we will. We'll just continue with the introductions. Yep, certainly. Thank you. If constitutional officers, Tim, could be sort of working and assisting him in the background. Perhaps if he tries to access it on his iPad, which has a 4G, because that happened to me a few weeks ago, it was successful. So if officers can give him that advice. Gemma?
Hi, I'm Gemma Williams and I'm here presenting on application 7.2 and 7.3 for Dulledge College.
Thank you. Is Kerry Simpson here or is Glenn in her absence?
That would be me,
here?
thank you.
Right, Glenn.
Just quickly, my name is Glenn Moran. I'm Planning Officer presenting and advising members on item 7.1. That's for Grange Walk.
Thank you. Dougal? Dougal Ainsley, are you present? We'll come back to him. He should be present. Is he having difficulties getting into the meeting too? Could I invite John? John Gorst? It looks as if we've got experiencing some technical.
Yeah, there might be some people trying to get into the meeting. I have sent them the password and the link.
Well, John was present a minute ago. We'll come back to John.
I think Dougal has just joined.
Dougal has. We'll come back. We'll just give him a chance to settle. Michael.
Hello, I'm Michael Takaris. I'm Group Manager Design and Conservation, and I'm here to speak and assist Glenn on item 7.1, the Grange Walk scheme. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Dougal?
Good evening, I'm Dougal Ainsley. I'm a lawyer for the council. I've been advising on the affordable housing issues in relation to Grange Walk.
Thank you. John, have you rejoined us? Right, John has slipped out for the minute. Do we have Tim? Are you trying to get John back into the meeting? He seems to have slipped out of the meeting.
Yes, I'm trying to locate him now.
Righto, thank you. Beverly?
Right, my name is Beverly Olamajula and I'm the Constitutional Officer. and I'll be clerking the meeting and taking the minutes.
Righto. Tim, can you quickly introduce yourself as well, please?
I'm Tim Murder, Constitutional Officer. I'll be providing digital support. Thank you, Chair.
Righto, lovely. So I don't have, are there any other officers present? We'll come back to John when he returns. No? Okay.
Chair,
yes.
Councillor Eastham said he's going to try another device to get onto the meeting.
Yes, yeah. If
you're
you
having
could,
difficulty.
Righto, if you could ask him to, if you could advise him to try, if he's got his iPad, his councillor's iPad, because that has a 4G and he should be able to, yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
All righty, so I'm going to sort of proceed in the hope, but by the time I get through these introductions and technicalities, that those individuals, officers and member colleagues would have joined us. We have apologies this evening from Councillor Maria Limphoff Hall, and we have apologies from Councillor Damien O'Brien, who was going to come in his capacity as a ward councillor for the Grange Walk application. Do we have any other apologies? No? Right.
I think John and Carl, sorry, I think John and Councillor Eastham are just joining now.
Right.
I'm in.
All right, well done, Carl. John Gorse, are you here?
Yes, I'm here as well, Chair. Apologies for that. Shall I introduce myself?
If you don't mind, John, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Apologies for that I lost contact, but I'm back with you now.
Oh,
thank
great.
you, Chair, and thank you, councillors. My name is John Gorst. I'm a solicitor with Southwark Council, and I'll be advising the committee on legal and governance issues. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and welcome back, and welcome, Carl. So we've gone through officers. Now we're going to go through confirmation of voting members for this evening's meeting. I will now ask members of the committee to confirm that they are a voting member. We've already heard that Councillor Limphoff Hall is absent today. Councillor Carl Eastham, can you confirm that you're a voting member, please, Carl? Hello, Carl.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Thank you.
I am a voting member.
Thank you. Councillor Sergil Islam, can you confirm, please?
Yes, Jack, can confirm I'm the voting member. Thank you.
Good-o, thank you. Councillor Vicky Mills?
Yep, I can confirm I'm a voting member, Chair.
Thank you, Vicky. Councillor David Noakes?
Yes, I can confirm I'm a voting member, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Seaton?
Yes, Chair, I'm a voting member.
Thank you. And I too can confirm that I'm a voting member. Right. Could we mute ourselves, please, members? Carl, could you mute yourself? Thank you. So items of business which the Chair deems urgent. We've got a supplemental agenda members pack, and we have an addendum report which has been circulated. Disclosure of interest and dispensations. Does any member wish to declare any interest or dispensation in respect of any item or issue to be considered at this meeting? David, were you going to say something just in terms of your locality, in terms of where you reside? I think you were going to just say something.
Yes, I don't think it in any way prejudices my ability to take part in the item, but I live in Spa Road, at the corner of Spa Road and Grange Road, which is not very far from the site, but it doesn't impact on the property that I live in any way, so I'm comfortable to remain on the committee. Indeed,
and that's been minuted. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we've got minutes to approve of the 7th of December 2020. Those colleagues who were present at that meeting, are you happy to agree the minutes for that meeting?
Agreed.
Agreed, yeah. Can we
Agreed.
just say it say it in unison, yes, then we don't need to sort of vote for that. So I'm now going through the sort of the management of the meeting for members of the public who are new to planning meetings. The next item of business concerns a determination of planning applications. I would like to remind everyone of the subcommittee guidance on the conduct of business. Officers will present the report, outline their recommendations and answer questions raised by the subcommittee. If present and wishing to speak, the following may then address the committee for no more than 3 minutes each. A spokesman representing any objectors to the application. And if anyone's present, they should have decided beforehand if there's more than one person who's going to speak and split that time in terms of their presentation within the 3 minute time slot, and that will be timed. We've got an applicant, or their agent, a spokesperson representing supporters of the application who live within 100 metres of the development site. A ward councillor can be present too, representing the area affected by the proposal. Each speaker should restrict their comments to the planning aspects of the proposal and should avoid repeating information which is already in the report. The meeting is not a hearing where all participants present present evidence to be examined by the participants. At the end of each presentation, the subcommittee may ask questions of the presenter. Speakers should lead the subcommittee to subjects on which they would welcome further questioning. Ward members in attendance and those nominated to speak on behalf of objectors, supporters and applicants may be asked to make further brief contributions in case any issues need to be clarified after they have addressed the meeting. This is not an opportunity to take part in a debate of the subcommittee. After receiving all submissions, the subcommittee will debate the application and consider the recommendation. This is a council subcommittee meeting which is open to the public, and there should be no interruptions from members of the public. Finally, I would like to everyone present to know that although the planning subcommittee comprises members from different political parties, we are not politically whipped. Our decisions are made in accordance with the council's planning policy and based on the information contained within the relevant reports, together with consultation responses and any verbal submissions made today. How we approach these applications is set out in the development management report at item 7, and if members are happy to note that report, we will move on to considering the planning applications. We've got 3 applications on the agenda this evening, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. I'm going to invite John Gorst, our legal officer, at this point to make a statement. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Chair. This is in relation to the first item on the agenda, where there's been a lot of discussion during the day and further representations that have been made and produced to committee members. That has, I think, perhaps a little late in the day, caused some a little bit of confusion, and I think members in their discussion beforehand were really keen that there was clarity on some of these issues. There might possibly be the opportunity for a site inspection, because some of the issues raised in relation to the conservation area, which is close by, and building heights, some members might feel that this would assist, and also some I think clarifications in the report and the addendum might also help. I think in the light of the late representations and the fact that there does need to be a bit more clarity, I think, in the report and the addendum, I think the feeling of the meeting was that, the briefing was that possibly this matter should not be heard this evening. Now, if that's the case, then there needs to be a resolution. So there needs to be a proposal to members and a vote taken that this matter would be deferred. So I'd invite you, Chair, or another member to propose the motion that this particular application is deferred until a later meeting of subcommittee, If that's seconded, then that can move to a vote, and that decision will be taken, in which case there will be no representations about this particular item during this evening. The whole matter will be deferred to another committee. That does not necessarily mean that the members who are here this evening have to hear that matter, because if the item is not opened to discussion, then it could be that a different set of members can consider it. So, Chair, I would invite you or another member to put the proposal for a deferral on the basis of the some of the items that I've mentioned.
Righto, thank you. So members of the, thank you very much, John, that's very clear. So members, you've heard John's statement, and in support of our deliberations at an earlier briefing, I would like to propose that we defer the hearing or the deliberations of the application 46 to 48 Grange Walk, London SE1 3DY this evening, for a later date, so that we've got an opportunity to consolidate our thoughts and receive the report as full, and as John had suggested, perhaps have an opportunity to, with government guidance permitting, to visit the site. Do I have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. I heard Councillor Martin Seaton first. So could we just, and I think it would, do I have to do, would it be helpful to have a show of hands, or should I go for a roll call, John?
I think you've got a couple of councillors who haven't got their cameras on, so I think you'll have to do a roll call.
Righto, yes. Okay, thank you very much. So Councillor Carl Easton, for, against or abstain for that motion?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Sirajil Islam, for, against or abstain? Councillor?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Vicky Mills, for, against or abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor David Noakes, for, against or abstain?
Abstain, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Seaton, for, against or abstain?
For, Chair.
And I am in favour of that motion too, so that is carried. So thank you very much indeed, colleagues. And this application will come back at a later date, not necessarily to this committee, but it will be heard at a later date. Possibly at this committee or another. Thank you very much. So we will, and I thank members of the public who are here this evening, who are here this evening to hear that particular application. Apologies, but there will be an opportunity for you to return for this application to be deliberated on. Thank you very much indeed for your time this evening. So we will now move on to 7.2, Dulledge College, Dulledge Common, London SE21 7LD. It's on pages 57 to 79 of the agenda pack and addendum report. And I will now invite Gemma Williams to present, please.
The screen shared.
Not yet, Gemma. Yes, can do now. Thank you.
Okay, so the application site is occupied by the Grade 2 listed Dulledge College and various other buildings associated with the school, surrounded by extensive ground, including the sports field to the west. The proposed works on the site are mainly concerned with the Enterprise Building and Squash Court Building, located south of the main school building, as part of a cluster of modern buildings surrounding the car park. There are no works proposed to the main listed building. The application site also includes Tank Field and Ella Bank Field to the east on the opposite side of College Road. The two fields are adjacent, separated by Grange Lane, with Tank Field bounded by Dulledge College Sports Club to the north and Ella Bank Field bounded by Dulledge College Kindergarten and Infant School to the east. The site is also in the vicinity of the Grade 2 listed Old Library and Grade 2 listed entrance gates and piers. The proposals include the installation of 2 thermal storage tanks and 190 boreholes across 3 sites with associated underground pipework. 2 ground source heat pumps will also be installed within the existing squash court building, where 2 roller shutter doors are proposed to facilitate access. The heat pumps will take over the heating and hot water generation for all of the linked buildings. The 190 boreholes are proposed to be installed throughout 3 areas, totaling 6.65 hectares, on Ella Bank Field and Tank Field to the east and Sports Field to the west. The boreholes will be 140 millimetres in diameter and 200 metres deep. The site is on metropolitan open land and also within the Dulledge Village Conservation Area. The proposed works are not compliant with the metropolitan open land policies, as the scheme involves new development on Mole as opposed to the extension or alteration of an existing building, and its purpose is not an ancillary facility to any land use which preserves the openness of the metropolitan open land. However, the proposals will greatly improve the energy efficiency of the Dulledge College complex, with an estimated carbon saving of approximately 710 tonnes per annum, which is seen as a public benefit. The two proposed thermal storage tanks are to be positioned adjacent to the south elevation of the Enterprise building on an existing area of hard standing in use as a car park, minimising the impact on the openness of the mall. The thermal storage tanks will be modest in scale, sitting below the height and within the width of the existing Enterprise building. The proportions therefore do not result in a disproportionate addition to the mall. The ground source heat pumps will be installed within the existing squash court building, where 2 roller shutter doors are proposed to facilitate access. The ground source heat pumps are considered to be a sufficient distance from adjoining occupiers and are unlikely to cause any adverse impact due to excessive noise levels. The pumps will be over 100 metres from the nearest dwelling, and being housed in the building, sound insulation can readily be installed. The roller shutters will not have any impact on the openness of the mole, as they are being installed in an existing building. The boreholes will be split across 3 sites. 45 boreholes will be installed over 1.28 hectare in Tank Field to the left, and 84 boreholes over 2.26 hectare in Ella Bank Field to the right. We have some further pictures of Tank Field and some further pictures of Ella Bank Field. 36 boreholes will also be installed on 0.6 hectares of the lower sports field, which is seen below here in the image and here. The section of the 3 boreholes, section of the 3 fields where the boreholes will be located will be reinstated to its original condition once the works are complete. The installation of the boreholes will therefore have little impact on the openness of the metropolitan open land and is unlikely to have any adverse impact on the amenity of the users. We would include a condition to ensure the materials are as specified within the application in order for the new works to blend into the site. Also, we would include a condition securing sound insulation within the energy centre to ensure there is no loss of neighbours' amenity through noise nuisance. The Environment Agency did not wish to provide any comments on the application, and as the land has not been developed on before, there is no concern about potential contamination. Although the proposal is not appropriate development on metropolitan open land, the only above ground structure, the thermal tanks and roller shutters, would not affect the openness of the metropolitan open land because of the location and existing hard standing. There would also be an environmental benefit as a result of this development if granted planning permission, as it would see a significant reduction in the carbon emissions from the site and improvement in the air quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Do members have any questions for Gemma on this particular application? No. Okay. Do we have any objectors present to this particular application? No.
No, Chair. There's no.
Right. Okay. Do we have any supporters present? No.
I don't think so. No, Chair.
Right. Ward councillors? Councillor Andy Simmons or Catherine Rose?
I think you want to ask the applicants.
Oh, right. Oh, so God. Yes. Are the applicants present? Oh, right. Oh, sorry. I thought, right. Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes. I haven't got your name. So if you could kindly introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, of course. My name is Simon Yeend and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the college.
Oh, righto. You're very welcome. So you heard in my opening remarks, Mr. Yin, you'll have up to 3 minutes to present. I'll ask the officers if they could give a sort of 30-second warning if you find yourself requiring the full 3 minutes. But when you're ready, if you could make a start. Thank you very much.
I have my own stopwatch on. At the college, we have been developing for some time a response to the challenges of climate change, and we have now a coordinated plan of measurable targets that, together with other initiatives, will enable us to work towards a credible, and that's really important to us, a credible assessment of net zero in due course that we would hope to be validated by professional and external bodies. We're obviously aware of the Council's climate emergency and targets for 2030, and we want to play our part in support of that. In the last financial year, the college's carbon emissions were 1,086 tonnes of CO2, of which 1,042 came from gas. It is our intention to take the college off gas entirely, which poses considerable challenges both logistically and financially, not least because of the cost differentials in the price of gas. COVID has, of course, further complicated things, as it has everything else. The only realistic option for us is to install ground source heating underneath the college's playing fields that will replace the gas-fed heating systems of the 28 buildings on site. It's an ambitious and highly challenging project with some very tight timescales. If we're able to deliver this, we need to submit an application to Ofgem for the government's renewable heat incentive by the 31st of March, which must include planning approval. And I'm really most grateful to the committee and to the officers of the council for hearing this application today. Not to put too fine a point upon it, and certainly not any pressure, if we're not successful with our application today, then we won't be able to access the possible subsidy, without which it's unlikely that we could afford the 9.3 million cost of the installation. I'm talking to essentially two applications. They both essentially deliver the same things, but if I'd rather than repeat myself for the next, there are two applications. You'll hear about the sports centre immediately after this. They are for these two energy centres and associated underground pipework and the thermal storage tanks that Gemma has explained. From a purely visual point of view, there's very limited impact. The only one that's really viewable to the public would be the one at the sports centre, which is essentially a box on the side of that building. The other is beside in an unused corner of the playground. That's where the thermal storage tanks go. The groundworks would be initially disruptive, but once completed will be buried under the playing field so the pupils will go on playing games above it.
Sorry, 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. If it helps, I can, of course, go into more detail about the system, but apart from that, I should say the application has the full support of the Dulledge estate, which owns some of the land that we will be drilling boreholes in that we currently lease from them on long leases. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yeend. That was very succinct. Do members have any questions for Mr. Yeend? No? None whatsoever. Mr. Yeend, how long do you propose this development, should it be approved, would take to sort of install and put in place?
This is the challenge, part of the challenge. In order to deliver it, we need to get to Ofgem by the 31st of March, which means putting a submission in really within the next week. And if it's to be given an a tariff guarantee, for that to be delivered has to be completed by 31st of March 2022. So that's tight, and we can do it. We've got a project timescale that'll do it, and we've built in sufficient contingency, but that's why we're having to press forward as best we can.
Righto. And what is their criteria for successful application?
I wish I knew, to be honest. The way it works, as it's explained to me, is that you've put yourself in the queue. They have an available pot of money at a certain tariff rate that they apply. There are 2 tiers of tariffs are currently available from the government's money. There was more before COVID, but then it all got held and then I think was adjusted from there. Essentially what happens is your submission goes forward. It needs a lot of detailed information, particularly about financial ability to deliver, and also it needs a commitment from the organization that we will deliver it if we get the incentive. How Ofgem allocate the money, I don't really know, but essentially it comes from they can't allocate more than the available pot. And I think it's determined, I think some of it's determined, I understand, by the scale of the project, some of it by the number of projects they're looking at. But I think it's a bit of a lottery, to be honest.
Right.
Well, right, I know.
Yeah, thank you. And do you know of other schools or sites that have actually adopted the same sort of systems?
Yes, the most similar is the Royal Alexander and Albert College, which actually they put in ground source heating, I think about 3 years ago, maybe 2. They came off oil, which of course economically is much easier to justify because the cost of oil is supposed to cost of gas. It was put in by the same company or agency that is working on us for us. So we would have to be bigger by about it's about 1 megawatt, but it's similar size. It's slightly different because they put some of it goes in a lake where they get heat from the water, and they've got a different number of energy centers. What we're seeking to do is have 2, possibly 3. Well, one approval has already been given to the Ducks land. That was in a previous committee. So then out of these 2 would be 2 energy centers serving the 2 different entities. And it's big energy centers, big heat source pumps, rather than the more distributed version that Royal Alexander and Albert are carrying out. It's pretty successful.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That was very helpful and enlightening. And I don't see any hands up from members from this committee to ask you any additional questions. So thank you for the time being. And obviously you will present at the next application coming forward to us. So I thank you until then. Does anyone live within 100 metres of the development site who wish to speak in support of the application? Anyone known present, Tim or Bev? No? No one indicated?
No one's indicated that they want to speak.
Righto. And do we know if the ward councillors are present, Bev?
As far as I know, they're not here now.
Righto. All righty. So, colleagues, you've heard the presentation from Jem. You've heard from the applicant. Are there any additional questions, comments you would like to raise? Is that you, Councillor Seaton? Righto, go ahead.
Just a quick comment, Chair. I don't believe it is, in terms of the use of mole, it's policy compliant, but I believe it's an incredibly positive use of mole, and I'm inclined to support the application, Chair. Thank you.
Right, that's very kind. So would you like to propose? Councillor, would you like to propose a motion to grant?
Yes, I'm happy to propose the motion to grant, Chair.
Right, do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
That's very kind of you, Councillor Mills. So we've got a motion to grant the application for the Dulledge College, Dulledge Common, London SE 21 7LD that we've heard presented this evening, I shall go for the roll call. Councillor Carl Easton, are you for?
Yes,
For, against, or
yeah,
abstain?
for.
You for?
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Surajil Islam.
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Vicky Mills.
For, Chair.
Councillor David Noakes. Thank you.
For, Chair.
Councillor Martin Seaton.
For, Chair. Wish the cottage well.
Thank you. And indeed, I'm for as well. So that's carried, unanimously carried. Thank you very much indeed. So it's, oops, we're still under the hour. So I will, if members permitting, I will move on to the next application, which is 7.3 Dulledge College Sports Club on Cottages, SE21 7LE. Gemma, would you like to present that particular application, please?
Yeah, so hopefully my screen is shared now.
Yes.
So this application site contains the Dulledge College Sports Club and adjoining fields. The sports club is housed in 3 distinct but connected buildings, ranging from 1 to 2 stories and mostly constructed in brick. The proposals include the construction of a prefabricated energy centre to house 5 ground source heat pumps and the installation of 42 boreholes. The 5 ground source heat pumps would replace the existing gas-fired boilers and would serve the existing heating and hot water circuits in the sports club. The 42 boreholes are proposed to be installed throughout an area of 0.54 hectare on the field to the south of the sports club building. The boreholes will be 140 millimetres in diameter and 190 metres deep. The site is on metropolitan open land and also within the Dulledge Village Conservation Area. The proposed works are not compliant with the metropolitan open land policies, as the scheme involves the construction of a new building on Mall as opposed to the extension or alteration of an existing. And its purpose is not an ancillary function to any land use which preserves the openness of the metropolitan open land. However, the proposals will greatly improve the energy efficiency of the sports club complex, with an estimated carbon saving of approximately 173 tonnes per annum, which is seen as a public benefit. There would also be an improvement in air quality from the removal of the gas boilers. The energy centre would be positioned next to the southwest elevation of the existing sports club building, with very limited, if any, impact on the openness of the metropolitan open land. The proposed energy centre will measure 2.8 metres in height, 5 metres in depth, and 12 metres in width. The energy centre would also be partially obscured from view, as the ground level is being reduced in height by 1 metre to be level with the adjacent footpath to facilitate access. Although 2.8 metres in height, this will mean only 1.8 metres is visible above ground level when viewed from the surrounding metropolitan open land. The structure would be clad in vertical cedar boarding with a slate grey roof to match the adjacent extension. The materials are suitable for use within the conservation area, therefore, as they do not introduce any details or features that are out of its character. The structure would be comparatively small in scale, sitting below the height and within the width of the existing sports club building, and would be subservient to the main building. The proportions, therefore, do not result in a disproportionate addition to the metropolitan open land and are seen as acceptable in terms of quality of design. The section of the field where the boreholes will be located will be reinstated to its original condition once the work is complete. The installations of the borehole will therefore have little impact on the openness of the metropolitan open land and is unlikely to have any adverse impact on the amenity of the users. An objection was received concerned with the potential for ground subsidence to a nearby swimming pool resulting from the installation of the boreholes. The boreholes are very likely, however, to cause any ground issues because of their small diameter and the fact they would be interspersed across a wide area. Further, once they are drilled, a pre-formed high-density polythene closed loop is inserted and the borehole backfilled with gravel and firmly conducted grout. This means the boreholes are not left open, avoiding any cumulative impact. A neutral consultation response was received asking for confirmation that the noise generated from the heat pumps will not cause an adverse impact on neighbouring residential properties. The pumps will be over 45 metres from the nearest dwelling and being housed in the building. Sound insulation can be installed to make sure no impact would take place. This would be secured via a condition. We would also include a condition to ensure the materials are as specified in the application in order for the works to blend into the site. The Environment Agency did not wish to provide any comments on this application, and as the land has not been developed on before, there is no concern about contamination. Although the proposal is not appropriate development on metropolitan open land, the only above ground structure, the energy centre, would have little impact on the openness of the metropolitan open land because of its location. And there would also be the environmental benefit as well as a result of this development. And it would also see a significant reduction in the carbon emissions from the site and the improvement in air quality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the officer, colleagues? No, I mean, oh, Martin, go ahead.
I may, Chair, just to clarify with Gemma as regards the openness of this land, this mole is where a school is located, which is enclosed. It's not been open traditionally. This would be sure about that because you've used term, but it's not open land. It is mole, but it's not open land. It's a school. It's owned by the school, and it has a boundary. This would be clear that that is the case.
Yeah, so it's within the sports club complex, which I believe does have some public access, but it is within, it's not sort of a publicly open field where it's off one of the lanes off Dulledge Common.
Right, just want to be clear. Thank you, Chair. You're mute.
Anyone else? Well, thank you for raising that question, because I've always got issues around MOL land and you know, applicants coming forward potentially to build on it, especially if it deviates from policy. But I think, as Gemma has said, that this particular structure would be relatively small and obscured and doesn't interfere with the openness of the MOL. So on balance, I think okay, that is just about acceptable, but I'm happy to hear from anyone else regarding that. If there are no further questions for the officer, are there any objectors present this evening? As Gemma mentioned, there was one in writing, but I think that issue has been commented on, that was raised, and I think our members satisfied that that would be resolved and would be suitably addressed. Yes. Okay. No objectors, officers? Bev and Tim, is that correct?
No, there are no objectors, Chair.
Right, so can I invite Mr. Yind, the applicant, to present on this particular application, please. Mr. Yin, you have up to 3 minutes, and I'll invite Tim or Bev to give you a 30-second warning, but feel free to.
Thank you, Chair. I won't take any at that time. I've said what I said to the previous one applies here too. Just speaking to this specifically, I can clarify that the sports club, it's owned as all that land around there other than the residential area is owned by the Dulledge estate. The college has a very long lease on it to 2065, and the estate intends that they would renew it for us so that we could have 100 years worth of boreholes in that site. It's not open to the public other than it's run. The only times that area is open to the public is when we open it as part of a sports club that is run by the college, but it is otherwise entirely within the school's curtilage, I think that's the right word. The other thing to comment on is the two individuals who made one a neutral objection and one the actual objection. I know them both. They're in Pond Cottages there. We already have 2 boreholes on site that we put in place to cool our new science building. They go down 125 meters, and whilst there's lots of subsidence and movement of the clay around other areas, there's nothing whatsoever in that area. These boreholes, all of them start with a 5 meters worth of steel casing as it goes through the first layer. And it's that first layer where subsidence occurs. So that, and indeed the boreholes will be inside from the boundary. And really there is no risk at all. The other question about noise was raised by the other one, and we talked about it, and he actually asked if it was possible to plug his own house into our system, but I think that's a bit beyond us at this point. But that's essentially the only comments to it. You're absolutely right about the openness. The energy center will be beside the swimming pool, which was already essentially sunk down, and there is an area of raised spoil that's now grassed beside the swimming pool, which creates this 1.5 meter depth. And there's a small footpath beside the swimming pool. The energy center essentially we dropped into that place. So the top section will be seen, but that's all. And that's probably my bit. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Oh, that was, thank you, Vicky. That was pretty comprehensive, and I thank you for your time, Mr. Yind. Do members have any additional questions for Mr. Yind? No? Vicky, did you raise your hand or?
It was a comment really clear, which was just to say, there's public access, but it's paid for public access, so it's not open, is it? And but as Mr. Yind said, I mean, the design of it, even if this was truly open public land, it's been so well designed that I don't think it infringes on it anyway. So I'm kind of pretty comfortable with the application as I was with the last one. And you're on mute still, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just having problems. I don't know why. But thank you. No, those comments are helpful and are certainly welcomed. Anyone else, colleagues? No? Righto. Thank you, Mr. Yind, once again. Are there any supporters who live within 100 metres of the development present and wish to speak this evening to the application? No? None registered? Beverly?
None registered, yeah.
Thank you. And I take it again, we don't have any ward councillors present for this particular. So, and I think, am I right in saying I think all is been said or asked of officers? We don't need to return to Gemma. So, Vicky, would you like to have the pleasure of
I'm very happy to propose. I don't know how to do this, but we, that we grant planning as set out in the reports already.
Yep, as is the report. Dulledge College Sports Club, Pond Cottages, SE 21 7LE. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
I'll go for David. No, I think David just got yes, Councillor Seaton. I think I heard Councillor Noakes come in there first. So that's wonderful. So I will. The motion has been set, so I'll go through the list. Councillor Carl Eastham, are you for, against, or abstain? Carl?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Sirajul Islam, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Vicky Mills, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor David Noakes, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Seaton, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
And I'm indeed for. So that is unanimously carried. Thank you. So I'd like to, that's the end of our business this evening. I was just wondering if we could say, I don't know how practically this can take place, if we could say goodbye to the members of the public, Tim and Beverly, and perhaps just keep committee members and officers on this call, or is that not possible?
I should do that. Just give me a moment, Chair.
Right. But bye-bye, Mr. Yind. He was just...